Mom went to jail, got arrested. She knows the roads in the area, believes her son is mature enough to walk on his own, but the deputy disagreed. Call all the dads in the county and see how many can account for the whereabouts of their children at any moment in time. See where that leads.
Brittany Patterson was arrested for letting her 10-year-old son walk into town by himself.
Call mommy and tell them they're taking you to jail because you decided to walk down the street.
A Georgia mom was arrested after her 10-year-old son was walking down the street. Cops showed up, said, "What are you doing out here, young man?" Said, "You shouldn't be out here." Brought him back home. Mom went to jail, got arrested. Now, this is troubling to some people because they say the 10-year-old son was perfectly capable of walking around. This mom homeschools him and was not worried about it at all. Here's the story. Says a Georgia mom is speaking out, not in Fulton County, not in Fannyland, but says after she was arrested for reckless conduct. Okay, she posted this news story about this, wrote it and communicated it to Jane Ridley and shared her story. This is the mom, this is the son. Brittany Patterson, her son just turned 11, and that's what he looked like. And so let me know what you think about this. Do you think this is reckless conduct? Let's see. When her nearly 11-year-old son was found walking alone near their home. Now, in an essay, Brittany Patterson, we'll take a look at it, a 41-year-old real estate broker and mother of 4, said she was at a doctor's appointment. She was there with her 14-year-old son when she got a phone call from the sheriff. Calls her. He's from Fannin County. A deputy said that her other son, Soren, who you just saw, he's nearly 11, was walking alone. Patterson said he was a little bit less than a mile away from the home in the woods, where he's homeschooled. Now, Patterson wasn't aware that her son was out walking alone, but didn't concern her. She said, well, she knows the roads in the area, believes her son is mature enough to walk on his own. But the deputy disagreed and ended up driving her son home. The deputy said it wasn't safe because it was a dangerous road. She said all kinds of things could have happened, including being kidnapped. So is it a female officer? Patterson described their home as a 16-acre compound in the woods with an in-law suite for her father, who's, quote, always home. She said her mom and her sisters live in a separate house. It's a 3-minute walk, and the children often go back and forth. When she got home from the doctor's office, she fussed at Soren for leaving without saying where he was going. He apologized, and the family carried on. My husband, Josh, and I were both raised with a lot of freedom and independence. We're free-range parents who want the same kind of life for our children. But guess what? That evening, deputies came back to her home, and they arrested Patterson for reckless conduct. All right. I was riding my bike everywhere, all over the place, and never got arrested for that. Now, even if you thought, well, that's a little young, or maybe that's reckless or whatever, the cop can just check in, right? Hey, are you supposed to be out here? Hey, does your mom know you're here? Hey, mom, okay, let me bring you home. That's the end of it, right? That's the end of the story. Thanks, officer. Thanks for checking in. You're done. Thanks for protecting and serving. Have a nice day. Go out and find somebody actually bad. Okay, we're free-range parents. That evening, deputies returned to her home. Just check in the family. Okay, drop the kid off. That's fine. But that evening, deputies returned to her home. They came back, and they arrested her. Patterson was handcuffed in front of Soren, booked into jail, fingerprinted, and placed in an orange jumpsuit. Oh my gosh. Her family paid the $500 bail to get her out. It's not funny. I'm smiling because it's sick, like how insane this is. And this woman, shout out to her for fighting back, man. Deputies also contacted the Division of Child and Family Services, which sent a case manager to visit the home and to interview the children because they're probably abused by the homeschool mom. Authorities now say they'll drop the charges if Patterson agrees to sign a safety plan for her children, requiring her to designate, quote, a safety person to watch over them when Patterson isn't home. Okay, so the government's now going to tell you how to parent your kids. Sign this plan because our plan's better than your plan. It also requires her to download a tracking app on Soren's phone. She has retained a lawyer and so far hasn't signed the document. Are all parents going to have to put GPS on their kids? Says David DeLugas, a lawyer for her. The parents get to decide for their children unless it's unreasonably dangerous. Now, a GoFundMe has been set up. It's raised more than 40 grand. Clearly, no one holds a mom degree, an MOM degree, said one commenter on the GoFundMe. Perhaps they should initiate a sting operation. Call all the dads in the county and see how many can account for the whereabouts of their children at any moment in time. See where that leads. Hey, do you know where your son is? School? It's Saturday. Oh, I have a son? Oh, yeah. I forgot about him. Yeah. If convicted, she faces up to a year in jail, and it's just insane. Okay, so hadn't read that story. We read it together, and it's just terrible. So here's what she said. This is her story. from mom. And this is a picture of the two. You can see nice looking family. Doesn't look like anybody's abusing anybody or anything. This is her, Brittany Patterson. She's 41. She's a real estate broker, mom of 4. She homeschools her kids. I don't have kids, but when I do have kids, homeschool is what we're looking at. So my cell phone rang at lunchtime, she says. On October 30th, 2024, near the end of my 14-year-old son Evander's doctor's appointment. Hello, madam. This is the sheriff's department, the police. The deputy asked if I knew that my youngest son, Soren, who was about to turn 11, was alone in our downtown area. You know where your son's at? No, I don't. Turned out he'd walked just under a mile from our house in the woods where he's homeschooled. The deputy wanted to know why he was there, how he got there, why I didn't know where he was. I was annoyed with Soren for going into town without telling me or other family members first, but I wasn't panicking. I just said, okay, I told her that I knew the roads and that he was mature enough to walk down there without incident. Now, the deputy said it wasn't safe. It was a dangerous road. She said all kinds of things could have happened. He could have been kidnapped. 15 minutes later, as I rushed home from the doctor's, my dad called to say the police had dropped Soren off. Okay, end of it, all right? End of the situation. Done. Thanks, cops. My mom and I chastised him for leaving the house without telling us where he was going and how long he was going to be. That's the end of it, right? We discussed what had happened. Soren was supposed to accompany me to the appointment, but he wasn't there when I called out to say it was time to go. So she left. I figured he decided he wanted to stay. I wasn't concerned because I knew we'd be back in an hour and a half. We live in a rural 16-acre compound that includes our house, which contains an in-law suite for my dad, who's always home. My mom and sisters live in a building that's a 3-minute walk away. The kids, we also have 2 daughters, Enola and Salah, 12, always go back and forth between the properties. And we grew up with a lot of independence. My husband, Josh, works as a superintendent of schools in Montana. We were both raised with a lot of freedom and independence. We're free-range parents who want the same kind of life for our kids. They're allowed to go back into the woods and dig and build forts exactly how we were. We lived on the north side of Squaw Peak or Piestewa Peak. And so my brother and I, Eric and I, and my cousins, Mark, we'd all go back in the mountains for a day, a full, just gone. And there's no cell phones or anything. At one point we had beepers. Okay, we got a beeper at one point. Didn't work on the mountains anyways. We go back there for hours all day. Come home like 7 o'clock, dark at night, hiking down the mountain when it's pitch, getting dusk out. Not a big deal. They ride their dirt bikes. They walk over to the neighbor's house where there's a nice flat spot to play basketball. And I lived in the city. Soren told me he'd gotten bored that lunchtime and just wanted to go for a walk. He walked into our small town of 370 people along the verge of the road, which has a speed limit of 25 to 35 miles per hour. He wandered through the gas station to say hi to his friend's grandma who works there. She wasn't around, so he went into the Dollar General. He was on his way back home when a lady outside the post office called him over to her car. She asked if I was okay, and I said, yeah, I was. She asked him who his mom was, and he told her my name. Then the son got a little nervous. He didn't feel like he should be talking to her and just walked away. I guess that at some point, she called the police. So I didn't fuss at Soren for walking to the dollar store because I think that's fine. I fussed at him for not letting me know when he was going to leave the property. Just let me know. It's okay. It was a communication thing, so he apologized. We moved on with the afternoon. It was over. So around 6:30 p.m., this deputy sheriff and another maniac officer with nothing better to do spent their whole afternoon talking about this. Tried a friggin' conference meeting about this and had to debate it. I opened the door. I held my finger up. I said, can you give me a moment to end my phone call with my client? She's on the phone working. Deputy said, you need to step outside now. They asked me to turn around, put my hands behind my back. Soren, the kid, was sitting right there watching the whole thing. They said that I was under arrest on a charge of reckless conduct and took my phone. At the station, they fingerprinted me. They stripped me down, made me change clothes into an orange jumpsuit. They scanned my body and took my mugshot. These are cops. I was only in there for an hour and a half. My mom and sister paid $500 for me to be released on bail. I was back home by 8:30. Woman completely violated by insane cops who stripped her down, scanned her body, took her mugshot for a stupid situation like this. On Halloween, a case manager from the Division of Family and Child Services visited our home and spoke to the kids, my mom, my sister-in-law, and my dad. Gonna come take the kids. The next day, I contacted David DeLugas, the founder of Parents USA, a nonprofit that often provides pro bono legal support to parents wrongly accused of child neglect. The case manager texted me on November 5th because she wanted to stop by to go over a so-called safety plan. Some lunatic loser who wants to take people's kids from them. It required me to delegate a safety person, presumably my mom, to be a knowing participant and guardian to watch over the kids when I wasn't there. Under her supervision, I needed to download a tracking app onto Soren's phone so I could monitor his location. DeLugas, an attorney, explained the pros and cons of signing or not signing the safety plan. I decided it was better not to sign it. I knew the risk, that the deputies could push the issue and maybe even try to have my children removed from my home. It's so scary. They're going to try now. This is what happens when you stand up to these maniacs. But I feel it's more important to stand up for what I believe in. Good for her. My kids are all supportive of that decision because we've talked about everything that's been going on. We know the maximum punishment could be a $1,000 fine and up to a year in jail. DeLugas, the lawyer, is helping us dispute the charges. Meanwhile, friends and family have said they're concerned because they sometimes leave their kids alone at home, or their kids go out for walks too, like Soren. They wonder now if they'll have cops show up because of it. None of us want the government telling us how to raise our kids, but that's what they're doing in Georgia. What a sick story. And we're very happy to see that they are fighting this. So they do have a GoFundMe. They're now raising over $49,000. The community is rallying around this woman. She was arrested. According to the reports, we know what happened. It was Fannin County Sheriff's Department. And so here is some of the scene.
Police body camera video shows the moment Brittany Patterson was arrested for letting her 10-year-old son walk into town by himself.
What am I under arrest for?
For reckless endangerment.
And how was I recklessly endangering my
we're not
child?
talking about it.
On October
We're not
30th,
talking about
Patterson
it.
said she took one of her children to the doctor. In the meantime, her son, Soren, who's since turned 11, decided to walk less than a mile into town from their home in rural Mineral Bluff, Georgia. While out, Patterson got a call from the sheriff's department, worried that Soren was walking alone.
I wasn't concerned. I wasn't, panicking or concerned because it's just a short walk from our house. He knows how to get home. He knows how to get there.
Authorities dropped Soren off at home, and 5 hours later, they returned.
Call mommy and tell them they're taking me to jail because you decided to walk down the street.
That's not his fault.
Yeah, call mommy.
You're the mother. That's your responsibility.
Last time I checked, it wasn't illegal for a kid to walk to the store.
It is when they're 10 years old.
Patterson was booked on suspicion of
Listen to her.
reckless conduct, a charge that could carry 1 year in jail. The warrant claiming she willingly
Maniac
and
cops.
knowingly did endanger the bodily safety of her juvenile son.
Our criminal justice system is built on the fact that you did something or you were negligent. You did something criminally negligent. So what is it she did?
Authorities have offered to drop the charge if Patterson signs a safety plan that includes the use of a
No, 'cause that's
GPS
gonna make
tracker
her
on her
their
son's phone. But she refuses to sign
slave.
it or admit doing anything wrong.
I just felt like I couldn't sign that, and that in doing so would be agreeing that there was something unsafe about my home or
Yeah, and
something
then- yep,
unsafe
exactly
about
right.
my parental decisions.
And then
I
they're
just
going to
don't believe
monitor
that.
you, and then they'll have other justification to take your
Brittany
kids
Patterson
away.
is out on bail, awaiting to see if prosecutors will indict her on the reckless conduct charge.
Okay, sick government maniacs who just want to take kids away and
Police
arrest
body camera
parents who did nothing wrong.